Are you ready for Djibouti? Djibouti happens to be a very interesting country. It's the second smallest country, in as far as out of the 12 countries found on the east side of Africa, after Eritrea, of course. So Djibouti got its independence in 1977 from the French colony. It has had two presidents. So the current president is Ismail Omar Guelleh, who got into power in 1999 from his uncle, who had been the president since 1977 after it got its independence. It's fairly dry. So, as you can tell, there is little or no agricultural activities taking place. And this affects its citizens because now more than 60% of their population live below poverty level, which is quite sad. But that notwithstanding, it has attracted the attention of superpower countries. And someone would wonder why Djibouti? Why would they be interested in such a country? And there are two reasons as to why they are interested. So the first one is that it is fairly stable. The countries surrounding Djibouti, for instance, on the on the north we have Eritrea, which is fairly unstable. It's plagued with civil wars. On the northwest we have Sudan. On the west we have Ethiopia. On the south we have Sudan, and on the far east we have Yemen. So as you can tell, it's the only stable country in comparison to those five. So the second reason, which is actually the most important, is that Djibouti touches the Red Sea. And the Red Sea is very key in as far as world trade is concerned. So the Red Sea links Africa and Middle East. Okay? It opens up Europe, okay, via the Suez Canal. So Djibouti happens to be very key, okay, and very important in geopolitics. You know, it has an economic asset based on its locality, and so it has attracted very many many countries, and they all want a piece of Djibouti. Like the French have two military bases in Djibouti. The US has its only permanent base in Africa, located in Djibouti. China and Japan have their first ever overseas military base in Djibouti, where Japan established its first ever military base in 2011 and China in 2017. We have Italy, which established its military base in Djibouti in 2012. Saudi Arabia, which did not have any military base outside its boundaries, was forced to establish a military base in Djibouti as well. We have India, we have Germany, we have Britain, and even more other countries are coming in because of their interests on the route. So we find that the Middle East, which have the most deposits of oil, transport like 90% of their oil via the Red Sea. And Asia transports its goods to Europe via the Suez Canal. So it becomes a very key route for all these countries. And this route cuts down their costs by close to 50%. So it's very important, and for world trade. So these countries have to work day and night to make sure that Djibouti remains stable, you know. And a few analysts are actually saying that Djibouti might become the next Dubai, in the near future. So I think Djibouti is a country to watch out for, you know. Ethiopia, being a landlocked country, is already benefiting from Djibouti. Ethiopia happens to be the fastest growing country in the world in as far as textile industry is concerned, and it is shipping its products through Djibouti, you know, thanks to the Addis Ababa Djibouti railway line. So Djibouti is already helping the countries surrounding, or rather the countries on the east of Africa, are starting to benefit from Djibouti. Countries globally are already, especially the superpower countries, are already benefiting from Djibouti. But then now you wonder, why is Djibouti still among the poorest countries globally? This, in my opinion, rests and falls on the leadership, and the leadership needs to get a seat on the table. When everybody is negotiating, the superpowers are negotiating, it needs to be on the table, negotiating for its own people. You know, like the US having its only permanent military base in Djibouti, meaning that they've invested a lot of resources, they've invested so much in Djibouti, and so the fact that it's in Djibouti, Djibouti's president should be on the table and saying, you know what, we need this, you know, because we've provided this for you guys. Some of these countries, you know, they are able to ask and or rather, they are able to negotiate for their people, you know, knowing that these countries are the main decision makers. You know, China, when it's growing and when it's growing its capital base, when it's investing in other countries in Africa, Djibouti should be the biggest beneficiary. So I think we need to watch out for Djibouti, and also the leadership needs to step up, you know, and take advantage and say, you know what, and put the foot on the table and say, you know what, we also need to be heard. Okay? There's Djibouti.